friends, this is Sarah from Crafting and Relaxing. Welcome, whether you're brand new or a longtime subscriber. And if you are brand new, be sure to subscribe. I know that a lot of my viewers haven't subscribed yet. Today I'll be showing you assembly line card making is essentially what I'm doing. And I've set things up a bit differently, so you'll see the cutter and the papers a lot. And then I'll show you what I have laid out on the counter next to me. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to show you the 14 finished cards and talk to you about the methods that were used in them along the way. So what you're seeing right now is I'm going through the Hello Winter collection from Echo Park and choosing the papers. I choose the papers based on the ones that speak to me, the ones I like, the patterns I like, the colors. I'm not necessarily looking for light or darks or color value, just something that I like. I always like snowflakes and stars, so I'm probably going to start there. And what I've done is planned a little bit the background and the size of the cards that I'm going to make. If you think about some sort of theme or layout, some people use sketches, it helps you when you're trying to create in batches. And so I'm using the process of cutting the same size papers, and I've got some notes popping up for you on the screen, and I'll show you my very formal notes that I made before I started cutting. Honestly, I started the camera, ran it for about an hour, and then edited the video down to about 10 minutes of usable process video for you. I was watching Christmas movies, and at one point I was cutting to the right of the camera and assembling to the left of the camera, and you were just looking at a stack of paper. But there were some things in here that I wanted to show you. For example, I've switched cutters, and I'm cutting these in triangles. Sometime in the morning when I was making coffee and eating pie, I thought about the different types of backgrounds that I use to build my cards on and the templates, and I thought I never used triangles, and one of my friends is having trouble mixing patterns. So I just wanted her to see how easy it is if you have similar scale and similar colors, especially when you're in the same collection. It's meant to be. What I did at first before I turned on the camera was I cut about 8 pieces of card, the first layer, the 4 by 5 1/4, and then now I'm putting the patterned paper on top of that. And I'm cutting my triangles in half, and I'll show you what I've done with them, and then we'll show you the finished cards so you can see how it comes out. You don't really notice the triangles so much when the card is made. It was just a different idea for me, an inspiration, a starting point, something to use a diagonal across the page instead of a stripe. We talk a lot about dividing the page into thirds and design inspiration, and this is what I came up with. And you can see all the fun papers in this collection, and I'm just coming back and cutting some of those rectangles into triangles. And remember, they're not square, so it's not as easy as cutting them and flipping them over. You can't cut it in half and flip it and use that on the same card. So you might have to think about it a little bit if you use this. And when in doubt, if you cut your paper and you didn't want to, just use it anyway and pretend you wanted it that way. Here I'm using the branding strip. Remember, I never throw these away. And I'll show you where this ends up on a card. I was just looking for a piece of paper that had contrast, and I didn't want to cut a tiny strip off of a brand new 12 by 12 sheet. Because I do so many different types of projects, I don't go through and cut my 12 by 12s into card size. I try and keep them large, so if I want to make a mini album or a junk journal. There's my little notebook right there on the left. The card is an A2, so it's always 5 1/2 by 4 1/4, so that's my first measurement. Then my solid background is going to be 5 1/4 by 4, because if you don't layer things, your cards are going to look bland. And then my printed paper is 5 by 3 3/4, and I write that on there so that when I'm looking up and watching the TV and the Christmas movie and getting the coffee and letting the dogs out, I don't lose track and miscut. This is what I do for assembly line. I don't necessarily do it if I'm just making one or two. Now here I have a paper that I really like, and I like the back of it too. So this is a great trick. If you don't want to do the triangles, you don't want to mess with triangles, take your 5 by 3 3/4 piece of paper and cut it into thirds in some way, or half. Either cut the ends or cut the middle and then flip it. And I'll show you that. And here I'm coming back and cutting that branding strip to 3 3/4 because I've decided exactly where I want it, and it wasn't quite the right length. Again, wasn't quite the right length. That's one thing I wanted to tell you. I didn't speed up. This part I actually slowed down. I'm showing you. There's the paper and I flipped it. There's some pieces I haven't cut yet. There's triangles where I flipped them all around and laid them out the way I want my cards to be. And then I'm going to grab a piece of paper and show it to you. So here's the triangle, and you just flip it over and lay it down with a paper that you like it with, and then glue those down. Okay, so here's a piece where I cut it and flipped it. This is that one I showed you earlier, and now I'm gluing it down. This is a really nice way to give yourself a backdrop to work with. Avoid cutting it right down the middle, regardless of whether you're going horizontal or vertical. And keep in mind that when I'm making these bases, I don't know if I'm going horizontal or vertical yet. I haven't thought about it, and I don't really care. I'm just trying to get some card faces to work on. And my bases, my 5.5 by 4 1/4 in my super heavy duty cardstock, I haven't started. I haven't even thought about them yet. I'm just trying to get card fronts. I like to cut my bases at the end because I have some winter colors and some white, and I might want them stand up top fold cards or side fold. So if you wait, you can figure that all out. Here's where I'm putting that dark branding strip across it. When I was editing this video, I had to cut a lot of stuff out. I didn't change the speed, like I said, except for when I showed you the counter, I slowed it down. But I had to cut a lot of stuff out because I kept watching the TV, I think. It took me forever to just push the cutter down or glue something. Here, I'm doing the same thing where I have a piece of paper that I like. I've cut a strip off of it. Then I'm going to cut the same, I think I used 1 inch, off of the other side of it. And then I'm going to flip the center over when I glue it down. And I'll show you that. Unfortunately, I didn't show you on the card, but see, then we have that checked and the circles. Just another way to get a quick card. Okay, now I went into the stickers and I've started pulling off some sentiments I want to use and layering them up. That's another thing. When you're making, I'm trying to make about 35 or 40 cards. If you use the stickers for your sentiments or consistent sentiments, sometimes you've seen me pre-stamp a bunch of them, that speeds things up too. I don't like my cards to be exactly the same, but I do use recurring themes that somebody who isn't a card maker wouldn't necessarily even notice, like the triangles in the background. When you see the finished cards, a normal person wouldn't think, oh, triangles. I'll show you that at the end. Okay, here I stuck the sticker on, and then I'm using my cutter to trim the paper. Now keep in mind, I didn't put the sticker totally square. I probably should have just used scissors. And I have a bunch of stuff on the table that I never used. And that's okay, that happens. Now we're going to look at finished cards, and here's an example. These are 4 cards that I'm showing you at the same time because I used the triangles on all of them, and you can see that they turned out very different. And what I do is I prep my fronts and I laid them all out. Then I glued them all to my bases, and then I put my embellishments on them and went to bed last night. Okay, because when you're using stickles and Nuvo drops and those kinds of things, the best thing you can do is walk away, because otherwise you'll lay one on top of the other. And here I've just gone through each card and I'm trying to show you what embellishments I used and where I got them. These are Nuvo jewel drops, and I used them right there. It's translucent, so that one's great to if you can't exactly match the color. And brads and pearls that I got at Expo. The brads, remember, That's why you don't attach your card to your card base to start. You want to do all your layers separately so you can hole punch and layer things up with foam mount and wrap ribbons around. This is the Clear Star Jelly Roll pen, a nice close-up. If you don't get one that looks exactly like that, it will be different and you'll be disappointed. Okay, this one, I actually used a mixed media thing. First I'm showing you the washi tape, but that circle is dried paint. It's what they call a paint skin from the bottom of a Dixie cup from paint pouring. There's one that's not glued down, that's all it is. And the colors were so perfect, I loved it. I had to put it on there. It's not a perfect circle. I'm not going to run it through my Sizzix. Oh, this one I showed you, I have stickers on the inside. I'll have stickers or stripes of paper probably on the inside of almost all of them. I just haven't, I didn't show you all that. This one was a star that was cut out of like framing mat, I think that's what it's called. It's a little bit yellowed, but I liked it, and I put some drops on it. The drops, if you haven't used them, I'll show you a card where they didn't come out very well. They're kind of expensive, but much, much cheaper than buying enamel dots. Okay, here, these are the cards where I cut the strips and then flipped the center. See, so that background looks very busy and intricate, and it is a rectangle with 2 cuts where I flipped it. Here I'm just showing you each embellishment that I used. Junk sitting around the house. Check all your junk drawers. Those are the enamel dots that you buy. So if you don't get those at Tuesday morning, that pack is $5 or $6. And if you use Nuvo drops, you get 3 drops right there. You can make them bigger too. I just didn't. And I used the white a lot in these, so I'm showing you the white over and over. And tiny little texture and differences add variety. That ribbon is from like the Walmart dollar section or Target dollar section last year or a couple years ago. It's light blue, so it doesn't quite match the teal, but I liked it. This card is where you cut the section off the end, flip it, and then I put the section of branding strip up the middle. That's all that background is, and then layered, and it looks cute. Then I took the Baby It's Cold Outside sticker, put it on white cardstock, trimmed around it with scissors, and wrapped a ribbon around it and put a knot. So there's a lot going on, but it's not hours of coloring. It's not a lot of stamping. It's very simple. These cards have a different setup because I'm using big stickers on them. So when I'm using big stickers, I'm trying to get a nice big background to work on. So you do even less work with your printed papers in the background. The snowman is another great example. I don't have a chopped up background behind him because I want him to stand out. And I use the snowy paper and the snowman sentiment. And I'm showing you the embellishments I used. The snowman, again, I stuck the sticker onto cardstock, fussy cut it, and then foam mounted it up just to add interest. And the white paper at the bottom is just, I cut it 3, same here, I cut it 3 3/4 inch wide. Then I took my scissors and cut a little scallop with no plan, and then I decide where the sticker looks good and I stick it on. The Hello Winter is foam mounted up, and I have Wink Stella. Almost any time you see a snowbank, it's hit with Wink Stella. This one has a lot going on and kind of doesn't look like it. So it has brads in the middle, and then the white Nuvo drops on the stickers in the center, and very small. Those turned out really nice. I like how that looked, and they laid down nice, and I didn't get little bumpies or ripples in them. The Nuvo drops aren't mine, they're borrowed, so I don't really have a lot of experience using them. Here I took the So Much Fun sticker, put it on cardstock, trimmed around it, foam mounted it, and stuck it on ribbon. I love to layer up my embellishments and add interest. Never even throw a scrap of ribbon out. You can use it for anything. That card, I realized there's no drops or glitter, so I set it aside. Now look carefully at these Nuvo drops. See how I had the little puckers in the middle? I didn't get quite enough on, didn't do them quite right. That's an example of applicator error. They're still cute, they're fun. I'm not going to throw out the card or anything, but you just have to learn to work with them. Okay, this one, I didn't use white, and I didn't use the teal translucent ones. I used the glitter drops. So these are White Blizzard glitter, and I just put them on the swirls. Thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe. Bye-bye.